Welcome to my video tutorial on my writing tips for you for a literary analysis essay and using the meal plan in your body paragraphs. When I think back to some of my good teachers and professors, I recall them showing me how they constructed a paper. So these are some of my tips that I use when I am constructing a literary analysis essay. First, I want to talk about the title. The title is the first part of your essay that your reader sees, so it needs to be interesting and not boring. You don't ever want to name your essay the title of the text that you are writing about or the play, so you need to come up with an interesting title. So in order to do this, we are going to use a colon right here. And the first part of your title is going to be a fun title. So this can be a pun, it could be a lyric to a song, it could be a quirky comment about that has a topic to do with your paper. And then the second part of your colon is the academic, boring part of your title. Let me show you an example. For example, this student in a Frankenstein essay chose the theme alienation. That is what they are arguing, the theme of alienation throughout the text. And so in this body paragraph, this first introduction, if you were to read through this paragraph, you're going to see that this student discusses and refers to Lady Gaga's song, Marry the Night. So up here in her title, she has put Marry the Night, uncovering alienation in Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. This is a good title, Marry the Night. That is interesting. That is the name of the Lady Gaga song. So that's going to be your fun part of your title. The boring academic part is going to be uncovering alienation in Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. The title could reveal what you're exploring alienation in Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, revealing XYZ in so-and-so's insert title of novel. So here you do have two parts to your title. First, let's talk about the introduction. This is going to be the very first paragraph of your essay. Now what I've done here is I have broken down the introduction into sentences. I'm not saying this is exactly how it should be. However, this is what I recommend, and this is how I write. The first sentence of your essay should be your hook or attention grabber. There are several different things that you can do for your hook or attention grabber. The first one is you can use a fact or a statistic. However, the fact or statistic you use is probably not common knowledge. Therefore, you are going to have to cite it. Next, you can use a quote. It could be a song lyric, it could be a verse from the Bible, it could be, any kind of quote that you find, a quote from a film, but you are going to have to cite it because it is a direct quote and it is not your quote. The third item I'm going to talk about for your hook or attention grabber is a bold claim or a scenario. I really like these because it gets your reader's attention. And you don't necessarily have to cite it because you're creating a scenario. So say, for example, you want to paint a picture using your words for your reader about a character who is just being completely ridiculous with their antics. And so you would begin describing how the character acts and whatnot. So that would be, using a scenario. A bold claim would be a claim that you are making for your reader. So you wouldn't necessarily have to cite those two items. And then lastly, I always get this, but students want to use questions for their hook. I think that now that you're in high school, you should try to avoid questions because I feel like that's the easiest outlet for your hook or attention grabber. So I'm going to encourage you to look outside of using a question as your hook or attention grabber. So following your hook or attention grabber, you need to have at least 2 to 4 sentences where you establish the background information in your essay. You need to make sure that your hook and attention grabber transition well into your background info. So for example, you wouldn't want to just jump straight into the background information. You may want to use transition words in your sentence, your second sentence, saying similarly, comma, or likewise, comma, or, you know, you could use like a counter argument if you would like. But there are some transition words that I think would be good to use there. Then you could give background information on your topic. One element of an essay that I ask you to avoid is getting a dictionary and defining words for your reader. I don't want to know what Webster's dictionary thinks. I want to know what you think. So please put it in your own words. Avoid that. So for example, if you are trying to define what an epic hero is, you need to use your own words and not look it up and say Webster's dictionary states that an epic hero is blah, 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 blah. Okay, use your own words. Next, in this establishing background, you need to include your author's name and text name somewhere. You don't want to just have your reader blindly reading your introduction thinking, well, what are they writing about? And you are going to include the author's name and the text name again in your thesis statement, which is the very last sentence. Your thesis statement is the very, very last sentence of your introduction. It is the roadmap to your essay, and it's very important because it guides your reader with where you are going in your essay. And you need to make sure that you have your so and so what established. So for example, there are two different types of thesis statements we could write. There's one called a three-pronged thesis statement. That's where you list 3 items that you're going to discuss. And then the second one, which is what I'm encouraging you to do, is to have a binder between your so and so what. So for example, my keywords for this are going to be in order to. So this author creates this character as blankety blank blank in order to, and then normally you can kind of come up with like an overall theme or a universal idea, like what is the author trying to tell readers? Are they trying to warn them about something? Are they trying to make a comment on society? There are so many issues we could get into. However, you need to make sure that you're in order to, your so what is the focus point of your thesis statement, because that's where your argument is really going to come in for the meal plan. Okay, so here's an example of an introduction. It's the same essay I referred to earlier, the Frankenstein and Alienation. So this student chose to go with a pretty standard hook. She said, in the novel Frankenstein by Mary Shelley, the creature feels a strong sense of alienation from society and from his creator. That's good, that's solid. It doesn't really grab your attention much, so I would encourage her to go back and find something a little bit more bold. However, it's not necessarily incorrect to have a sentence like this. She does go in and she ties some background information with her topic. And then she gets into mentioning Lady Gaga's song, Marry the Night, and how, you know, in pop culture, we have this underlying idea of alienation. And it's very, I mean, you think about a lot of artists, music artists, and they do sing about alienation. We have poets who write about alienation, novels that focus on alienation, films, especially your underdogs and heroes, they're alienated in the beginning, right? So, of course, she brings some pop culture into there, which is good. You can totally do that in your introduction. Make it relevant for your reader. That's what pop culture is for. And then lastly, in her thesis statement right here, she says, in her novel Frankenstein, Mary Shelley unveils the creature as an outcast in order to illustrate that no one is an outcast until society establishes so. This is a very good thesis statement. I think I helped her with it because you're not always going to get your thesis statement right the first time. If you do, then you must be a rock star. But a thesis statement is forever and continually changing. But you need to do your thesis statement first before you create the rest of your paper. So let me talk about the so and the so what in this thesis statement. Well, the so is that Mary Shelley unveils the creature as an outcast. So the creature, if you haven't read Frankenstein, the creature is actually the monster, and Frankenstein is the doctor in this novel. So Frankenstein, you know, the argument, society thinks that Frankenstein is the actual monster because that's what we see at Halloween and whatnot. However, I would argue that Frankenstein, the doctor, probably is a monster as well. So I guess the question in this text is, who is the actual monster? Was it the creator or is it the creature? So in this text, she says that the creature is an outcast. And the so what? Well, why do I need to know that the creature is an outcast? Well, Mary Shelley does that in order to show readers that no one is an outcast until society establishes them as an outcast. So basically, that's like pointing a finger at somebody and saying, oh, hey, you are now an outcast. And so that is her point, and that's what she's going to be arguing, that the creature is an outcast because society has deemed him an outcast. And so there you have your so right here. And then, well, why do I need to know the creature is an outcast? Well, in order to illustrate that no one is an outcast until society establishes so. So after your introduction, you get into your body paragraphs, and a very good structure to use is what we call the MIL plan, and it's an acronym that stands for main idea, evidence, analysis, and link back. So this is the structure I give students, and I use this myself. The main idea should be about one sentence. The evidence needs to be about one sentence. The analysis needs to be at least 3 to 4 sentences. This is the largest part of your body paragraph. And when you begin highlighting the MIL plan in your body paragraphs, you should have the most analysis. So, for example, if I were to pick a color for main idea and link back, I would do pink. Evidence, I would pick yellow. And then analysis, I'd put in orange. So if you don't have the most orange in your body paragraph when you're color coding your paragraphs, then you have a problem. Your analysis is the largest part of your body paragraph. And then lastly, you link back to your main idea in the body paragraph. So an example of a first body paragraph, we have a good transition word here. Primarily, the creature feels as if he is loathsome and he understands that society does not accept him. So here's my main idea. I'm going to pick pink. All right, boom, got it. All right, now moving for my evidence. Now, this is important. So I like it when students say, for example. That gives your reader the clue, oh, hey, I'm about to give you an example of what I'm talking about. So please do that. For example, in the text, Mary Shelley says, all men hate the wretched. How then I must be hated, who am miserable beyond all living things. There's my evidence. I'm going to highlight that in yellow. And then she's going to unpack this quote. What does wretched mean in the context of this quote in Alienation? Well, she says wretched is a word that can be used to express anger and annoyance. The word wretched symbolizes the creature's appearance and his attitude about how the world views him. Speaking through Victor, Mary Shelley says, but now that I had finished, the beauty of the dream vanished, and breathless horror and disgust filled my heart. All right, so look right here. She's got some analysis here. I'm going to highlight that in orange. And then I'm going to highlight, I have some more evidence. I'm going to highlight that in yellow. So we have more evidence here, so I need to highlight that in yellow. And then here she says the disgust that Lady Gaga feels for the loneliness of fame is similar to the disgust Victor feels after creating the creature. So this is the first time in this paragraph she's mentioned Lady Gaga. She needs to transition into this. It's just kind of plopped down in the paragraph, so that needs editing. But I feel like she could fit that in there if she were to transition it. But I would say that that is going to be your analysis. And then we're moving on to the bottom. We've got more analysis here. So I'll highlight that orange as well. So this is analysis 2. When someone is disgusted with another person, whether by their looks or things they do, that person tends to be isolated. And then here we have our main idea, which this is going to link back to the main idea. That's why I choose to do this in pink as well. This is going to link back to alienation and isolation of the creature, which I can see that it does up here. Okay. Moving on to the next body paragraph, I would find the main idea here, and then I would locate my evidence, and I'll put that in yellow. So the sooner you present the evidence, the better. Let's see. So the structure of this essay has more than one piece of evidence throughout the body paragraphs. It's okay if you present evidence as long as you back your claim up with analysis afterwards. So she does that here. If Agatha and Felix are sad and unhappy, then the creature thinks that it is not as strange that he is feeling downcast from his detachment as well. So that is not plot summary. That's explaining what this quote means, and that's exactly what analysis should be. And then here she's unpacking the quote. The word solitary is to exist alone or being the only one. This word symbolizes the isolation from society that the creature feels. So again, you know, Shelley is saying she's using the word solitary. That's just underscoring the creature's isolation. One item she does need to do here, if you're going to unpack your quote, which you should. So here she uses solitary, and then because she unpacked it from the quote here, she's using a word from the quote, so she's going to have to put the page number here because she used this word. She did use a quote from Lady Gaga's song, Marry the Night. We know this is a lyric because it's structured like a poem here with the backslash for the line break. So again, she brought in Lady Gaga's song. I would probably say similarly, comma, in Lady Gaga's song, Marry the Night. This is just a good transition word here to get into another argument. So again, she has evidence here, and then she backs her claim up with analysis. She doesn't go through and give me plot summary because, you know, I've read Frankenstein so many times. You don't need to retell it to me. But the point being here is that when you are using your meal plan, that the largest part of your body paragraph is going to be analysis. And so here we have a lot of analysis. It's solid analysis, and it helps support the thesis statement. So lastly, the very last paragraph of your essay is going to be the conclusion. It is not as hard as you think. You know, this is just the structure I provide for freshmen because they feel like they have a difficult time writing a conclusion. So the first sentence, just go back, read your thesis statement, reword it. The second sentence, you need to summarize and discuss the main idea and argument from body paragraph 1. Sentence 3, you'll do the same thing for paragraph 2. Sentence 4, same thing for paragraph number 3. And then the very last sentence of your conclusion is what I call the drop the mic sentence. This is what you're reading your reader with, and it should be very thought-provoking. My trick for this is to revisit your hook and attention grabber and see if you can pull it back into the concluding sentence. So maybe you quoted, I would recommend for this student to quote Lady Gaga in the first sentence. Since she's using Marry the Night and Lady Gaga throughout the rest of her paper, I would recommend she use a Lady Gaga quote in the beginning and then try to pull in that language in her concluding sentence to make a very bold statement at the end. Or maybe she wants to write a bold sentence about isolation and alienation and then pull it back into her drop the mic sentence at the end of her essay. There are several different ways that you can do this, but that's my trick, and I think that works the best. But make sure that it's not boring, and you say, one can see that, the creature is isolated. The end. That's not a solid conclusion. So let's look at an example from her essay. So in this conclusion, the student has revisited the thesis statement, and then they have also gone back and not necessarily summarized the main ideas. It's more advanced to go back and kind of summarize your main points of your entire argument, which is what she has done. She says the creature is tormented and abused by society because of how he looks. Mary Shelley's Frankenstein can be related to Lady Gaga's song Mary the Night because the creature and Lady Gaga both feel the same sense of isolation, though they are different forms. Then she says, therefore, I'd probably do a semicolon there. Yep, okay. Therefore, if society were more accepting, maybe then the creature would not have killed Victor's family. So, inevitably, she's basically saying that perhaps if people were more accepting of those who feel alienated, then they would not go off and have raucous behavior, such as killing one's family as Victor did, or as the creature did to Victor's family. So, again, I would recommend that she go back to the beginning and find a quote and kind of pull it in here at the end. And then lastly, of course, we have our works cited page. She has cited Lady Gaga's song Mary the Night from Born This Way album. And then lastly, she has cited Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. And that concludes her essay. So there are, and like I said, this is a good solid essay. There are some editing issues that need to be done. I think this is like a first or second draft. So again, if you proofread out loud, you should find a lot of your mistakes. But this concludes my writing tips on literary analysis and Mill Plan.